of the Africa Transitional Justice Network. He joins us now from Monrovia, Liberia. Aaron, thanks so much for being with us. Now, the charges are really horrendous, but this defendant's defense is to say he wasn't even in Liberia when these crimes occurred. I mean, how strong is the case against him?
That's a very strong case against Alieu. He operated in the north. There are witnesses in the region where he's been accused of crimes. There are 32 sites of massacres committed just in one region, in one county alone. And witnesses know him. There are testimonies against him. These denials are normally the first reaction by perpetrators, as we have seen in other cases. But most of the witnesses know Alieu Kosiah, and they're willing to testify against him. So the case against him is quite very strong.
I've heard some witnesses, though, complain that it's unfair to get justice when they won't even be allowed to hear his testimony in person. Some have been blocked from attending because of COVID-19 concerns. Is that a concern for you, or do you think it's a technicality that can be overlooked?
Yeah, I mean, generally, these are challenges. These remote, these international criminal trials conducted remotely has its own limitations. I mean, some of these limitations can be addressed by making some of the proceedings accessible, as we saw with the child stealer trial, with the child stealer case, so that people, because Alieu Kosiah operated in rural Liberia, and the victims, of the atrocities are located in those regions, even though there have been some migrations and relocations here and there, but predominantly, the trial would be more meaningful and more accessible if there are screens, setups in rural places, or there are radio where people get to follow the proceedings. It will have an important symbolic meaning to people in those parts of the country.
Okay, but I mean, is this the justice Liberia is seeking? Because again, we're seeing a dynamic that some have criticized, being a European court prosecuting alleged African criminals.
Well, in this case, I mean, Liberia is, I would say, one of the notable exceptions that we see after the TRC. Powerful warlords and perpetrators have reinvented themselves in key political positions. So the ground for domestic criminal accountability is very narrow. I mean, it's not even, it's been stifled. That's why there is a lot of attention being placed on international criminal prosecution, and we are seeing that the head count is steadily increasing, where Alieu Kosiah and a few others are being arrested. This is very important. These prosecutions in the diaspora hold very important meaning back home. They're being used to energize local mobilization. They're being used to energize local civil society strategizing for war crimes court, and it will also energize the new bipartisan legislative effort that have started in the legislature. Very recently, there was an adoption of war crimes court by members of the legislature, a very minority group in the Liberian legislature that have convened. This is a new development. It has never been there, because in the legislature, after the conflict, we have had perpetrators getting elected because they're using members as weapons, threatening their locals, and right. That if they are not elected, if war returns to Liberia, they would not come to their defense. So there are some very important developments. They are very small in terms of scale, but that's why trials such as Alieu Kosiah and other future trials hold very important symbolic meaning for the continued fight for criminal accountability in Liberia.
Right. Remind us, if you can, I mean, just how bad this period in Liberian history really was, and what Alieu Kosiah is actually accused of. And will this trial, help bring the kind of closure Liberia needs to genuinely heal?
I mean, it's very difficult to describe 26, 27 years on when some of these atrocities happen, because the last spate of the Liberian violence ended in 2003. That's about 17 years ago. But I mean, we're talking about mutilation. We're talking about gang rape. We're talking about massacres. I'm doing my PhD at Ulster University, and my PhD is basically on investigating local practices of memorialization. The TRC documented 205 sites of massacres in the county that Alieu Kosiah is being accused of war crimes. I mean, there are 32 sites of massacres in a small county that he's been accused of. So I cannot describe enough the enormity and how horrific and the atrocities that Alieu Kosiah participated in. I cannot describe that. I cannot describe that more. So we're talking about a scale of atrocities that perhaps have very little proportion in Liberian history.
Okay, Weah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We greatly appreciate it.